Welcome to United Jews channel.
Like
Yeah.
all of these disagreements that we have in the political sphere, is in this country. You know what they are about? Is that we're always thinking from our own point of view. We do not think of us as a possibility of success. We're thinking of us as a possibility, as a scarcity. I'm a survivor. I'm never a possibility. I'm always striving to get that time off to visit my kids. I'm always striving to get that extra $5 in my paycheck. I'm always striving to whatever. It's a possibility of scarcity versus possibility of abundance. Because when you become a possibility of abundance, then you find teams and teamwork that you can actually create around it, and then you find cooperation. You can actually have people who are on the right, people are on the left, and it's okay. You can talk to them. We're talking right now without diverting into like blood sports that sometimes take place on a Facebook group.
Or in college campuses.
Or on college campuses, yeah. Like go to a college campus, you see it's a warpath. You go in and it's almost impossible to find a person who would calmly listen to what the second person has to say, and that includes attending lectures in the whatever study hall you go to. Because everybody is treated from a perspective of point of view. My point of view that you're inferior to me, or my point of view that I am not worthy of being here, or my point of view that whatever someone said to me 2 days ago, I'm still reeling from it. If there is something incomplete, complete it and move forward. And it resolves the possibility of being a Republican, it resolves the possibility of being a Democrat, it resolves the possibility of stupid laws or inequality, racial or gender. Everything is possible.
You know, we're so
It
divided
becomes
right
not a
now.
question.
I just don't even know how we can get together and people start
We
respecting
start with
each other.
one
I
person.
just can't. I don't know. It's just like it's a war. It's just a war.
It is.
And
Yeah, but you start with one person at a time. Like I highly recommend it's a free audiobook that you can all check out from a library. If you have a library card, I know any library card now has online access. There is an app called Hoopla where you can actually check out this book immediately without waiting. Hoopla. The book is called The Art of Possibility. It's written by Ben Zander and his wife back into 2011. The Art of Possibility, and he goes through the whole book and he explains in real life examples how he approached every not exactly the questions that we have here, but they're just as serious. And he's a teacher, so how he approaches his students. He's a conductor, so how he approaches his students. He's a performance coach, how he approaches business people. His wife is also so they are like, I highly recommend this book. I cannot say anything more.
Kirill,
read it.
you know, you remind me of a philosopher. You know, I'm such a realist, and I'm gonna read it. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
a very
speculate on
different
the
point of view. I am such a realist.
Yes.
I mean, like everything is like,
I know it's
happening now.
It's a Russian type of thing.
We are very direct. We're very,
Yeah, I am judging right now because everybody who is Russian saying that we have intolerance toward possibility. And by the way, it's a bad thing. So I'm admitting that I'm judging, and I'm giving it up because I'm also living in the possibility that we all have greatness inside of us. So read the book, listen to the book. I personally like listening to the book because it actually well, it saves time. You don't have to sit down and read it, number one. And number two, the authors actually read it. So, The Art of Possibility.
Thank you, Kirill. So are there any other topics we want to discuss? I think we went off track.
We went off track, but we discovered something that it was missing in this in this conversation. One thing was like in the technology of accomplishment conversation, the first thing of it is actually relatedness. Our relatedness was completely out. We cannot go to an action without relatedness. So we spend this time, we got related, we know who we are, we know where we stand, and we maintain still civil conversation, and we invented something. What did we invent? We invented a possibility of treating each other with equity.
Okay, that's great. So do
And
you
it
guys?
starts with one person at a time.
Okay.
And personal sharing. Like I share with you my possibility, I share with you my accomplishments, you share with it with someone else, that person someone else, and you have something called others to others conversation and everything, and the world changes. By the way, the name of the city, if you want to look up what is that city that my Israeli friend is working on, is Rawabi, R-A-W-A-B-I, Rawabi.
Does it
It's a
mean
first,
anything in Arabic?
I have no idea.
And where is it
But
going
it's
to be
first,
located? Where is
it
it going
is
to be
actually,
located?
it already exists right now. If you go to YouTube and type Rawabi and BBC, that's the, they did an article about him, and it already exists today. You can go visit it. And my friend actually, if you ever, well, obviously we have one person who's already in Israel, so if you want to visit it, I can arrange it with my friend if you want to visit. It's not complete yet, but you can go tour it.
I don't know if I'm allowed to anymore.
Exactly.
Because it's right next to Ramallah.
Mhm.
And I know I'm not allowed in Ramallah anymore
Exactly.
as an
Exactly.
Israeli.
I was gonna say. So again, I'm
Again,
very
if you want to
practical.
reach out to my friend who was an IDF officer, who is actually actively involved in this project, he can arrange for you to visit it, if you want it, that is.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Sounds great.
Okay. So, and Tatiana, if you can you arrange for us to exchange the contact information? And I
Actually, you
will.
can. Oh yeah, absolutely. Or you can
I think I can
write in
find
the
you.
chat right now.
Give me a second.
Yeah,
Oh,
Lisa, you're not afraid to go there? I'm just asking because, you know.
I've already been to Ramallah. I wore my Star of David in Ramallah. I had more in common in Ramallah with the lady that kissed the portrait of the Palestinian terrorist than my liberal friends who wore tank tops and short shorts to Ramallah. I wore long sleeves, long skirt with my Star of David on. I didn't take it off and I didn't hide it. No one had a problem with my existence. Some lady walked up to me and in broken Hebrew Arabic explained to me that the girl next to me was wearing a tank top and short shorts was a whore. I thought that was funny. That she was okay talking. It's not as scary as everybody makes it sound.
Okay.
Wow,
So yeah,
nice to
please find me. I can send you a WhatsApp message if you want. So and I will and let's make it happen because he can arrange for you to go visit it. It's a first planned city in Palestine since 1,000 years.
And will there be any kind of production line type of producing anything so that people could work there, not just live? Just
Well, if you know of a what's that company? They produce
Sodastream?
yeah, Sodastream. The corporation exists even on that level. It has been existing for years. Like I know everybody in the news right now is stating, "Oh, blessed be our great leader, no name, who arranged to have relationship between Israel and United Arab Emirates." Do you know that back in 1980s and early 1980s, as early as 1981, literally, I have spoken to people who lived in Israel at that time. All of these Arab Emirates, Arab Emirate countries, including the other outside the what's that country, Indonesia, they were actually opening tour firms in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, and they were opening already representation, diplomatic relations. It's something that has been in the making for many years. It's finally what the realization of it is today. Is finally people are starting to converse as people again, not nationality, but as people. And when you start talking as people and treating each other with from the get-go with equity, that every person is complete and perfect, you have stability.
So Kirill, how do you see the peace in Middle East? Do you think the president, whoever he is, have to sign peace agreements with every single country, and that's the way to have a peace with the neighbors, or for Israel, or there is some other way?
I certainly believe that the peace in that region can only happen when people from neighboring countries start treating each other as neighbors. And not neighbors you go a fist fight with, but neighbors as the ones that you can invite to have a barbecue with. I remember visiting Israel and back in like 1997 as part of that birthright thing. And I was visiting the kibbutz by Mount Hermon on the northern in the north in Golan Heights. And one day there was a canoe trip on the Jordan River, and it was the most beautiful thing, because the Jordan River separates the country Jordan and the country Israel, and from both sides of the river you can smell barbecue, and you can hear songs, and it was a beautiful day. This is the type of a thing that you have, like, you know, this is when this happens. People who are in power, they're elected there not because they're super smart, or not because they represent everyone in the country. They're just elected there to be placeholders, to like saying like, yes, my grievances needs to be brought up to somebody. Let's bring it up to somebody in Washington, D.C., or in Jerusalem, or in Moscow, or in Minsk. Doesn't matter. When people start treating each other as people, miracles happen.
Well, you cannot make a law. Treat your neighbor as a person.
There is nothing. You know that law is you are inventing a law right now. It's not real. Nothing is real. You just start the day from a perspective. I am treating everybody with love and listening and opportunity. And guess what? You're gonna get love and listening and opportunity from others.
What if you are not getting love and listening from others?
And you have to be okay with it.
What if they start fighting with you and saying bad names? What do you do?
You
Okay,
respond
so
with kindness.
you respond with kindness, because this is the thing. You go to a conversation without being attached to an outcome. Like if you go with an expectation, if you go with an expectation of like, I'm gonna have this conversation go a certain way, guess what? You're gonna fail in that conversation, and you're gonna fail again and again and again, as many times as necessary, by the way, until you start to realize, I don't have to be attached to an outcome. I go to a conversation with it being a possibility of being open, but nothing to a conversation. Like, because one of the teachings, again, Baba Ram Das, and actually been replicated in many other instances of education, something that you can even partake in, something called landmark education that is being taught here in the States and in Israel and everywhere else in the world. It's like, I am me is actually someone who like you as me, and I am you all the time, no matter how far we are. Like we're just slightly like misrepresented, because like I'm looking at the mirror, I'm looking at you. So this slightly disguised.
Okay.
May I interject for a second?
Yeah, sure, sure.
But it's really important for me. I'm not idealist by any means, and I'm I want to say practical, but what I heard from Kirill is very idealistic world. You have to love your neighbor. You have to love another.
You don't have to do anything.
Everybody. But that's how you make it sound.
You don't have to have anything.
People, even if they hate each other, they can still live in peace. Absolutely, that's possible to me, because they value their existence first, as opposed to making somebody else suffer. Even if you hate the person, you still think individually that you will live better if you live in peace with your neighbor. we even the one you hate. So that's what I say. And I think returning to conversation, you might want to discuss, I have to go, but you might want to discuss how Middle East politics or world politics and policy will change with President Biden. That is
yes,
really, really presidential politics, as opposed to a lot of other things. This is really important discussion of policy and the politics as a, and you know, as when if the you know, it changes the policy, and of course I believe it will change if the Biden becomes policy, including his policy towards Israel and towards Middle East. And I want to say that the recent peace accord that was signed between Israel and UAE is completely and entirely and mostly attributed to Trump's policy. And even for that, I will value him, even if for other things I might, you know, disagree with a lot of things, that I have to give it to him. So
that you are granted your opinion, and I'm okay with it, by the way. However, I can interject with something that UAE and Israel had a long-standing relationship, even dealing arms for many, many years, even decades. And I can actually introduce you to a person who was at the table who created one of the first transactions of Israel selling covertly military equipment to UAE. And that actually, that person probably was more instrumental in today's conversation that we have with the peace treaty there.
okay, so let's not go there. Basically, Soviet Union, we all know, had no relations in Israel until like very recent, you know, beginning. No embassy and no consulate. Yet Soviet Union had relationship with Israel. You cannot not have relationship in Israel. We're not talking about relationship. Every country has relationship with Israel, including, you know, as a part of it, Palestine has a relationship with Israel. Yet it doesn't mean that they're in peace, and they're officially signed documents that puts them into position of relation of flying normal people to visiting normal country visit, where Israel now planning, Israelis going, instead of going to Turkey, they're planning their visits to UAE eventually. It didn't happen yet, but it might happen soon. So that wasn't happening. People from Israel couldn't visit, and even people who visited Israel and in their passport had a stamp could not be allowed to visit UAE. Now it's all in the past, and officially they're open, and there's some ties that normalized a relationship can happen. Yes, governments always in relationship, even if they hate each other, even if they pretend that they're not in relationship. They are governments, but people, normal people, have to follow this, and this normalization will allow to truly normalize relationship with those two countries, and other countries looking at that now, negotiating their entry into position. And I like that. I like that. And
I actually, I'm looking forward to Trump negotiate with a few more Muslim countries before he leaves, if he has to leave, because I think this is so beneficial for Israel and for United States and for the peace in the entire world. I hope he will make those happen, because unfortunately, if Biden starts his term, I don't know, some connections could be lost, but I don't know. What do you think, Igor? Will Biden continue or not?
I think Biden will continue relationships and Middle East policy of Obama, which was not beneficial to, including United States, but definitely to Israel. It was absolutely divide and conquer, and I did not appreciate that. I did vote for Obama in the first term. I you know, I have to say what happened, and that changed me. First step was his relationship to this, you know, all of that really turned me out of Democratic Party and including Obama. So that was happening, and I believe Biden will be same place, and